regular Board of Education meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Ms. Stachek?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum, who is not present tonight. We have 4 and we have a quorum.
Thank you, George. If you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At every board meeting, we remind ourselves of our direction as a district, and we are currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and larger community. There are 4 strategic priorities to this plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan, and you will hear things from several of these categories tonight. Next item on the agenda is recognitions, which we do not have this evening. And then public comment. I also do not have any public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Okay, no public comment tonight. Next, item D is approval of minutes. We have a motion to approve the October 9th, 2025 work session minutes. All audio recordings will be a permanent part of the minutes and are available upon request through the Treasurer's Office. Video recordings shall be maintained based on the availability of the selected digital and online platform. Those will be voted on as part of our consent calendar. Brings us to item E, which is the Treasurer's report. George?
Thank you, Mrs. Bissell. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first being the monthly financial report for the month ended September 30th, 2025. I'm going to go over the supplemental report, which I usually go over the same report for each month. Just want to make it a little bigger. So the month-end cash balance of $59,047,000 is about $5.5 million lower than the previous year. Revenues are trending about $1.2 million or 1.4% higher than forecasted. I'll get into the reasons why as we get to that section. Same with expenditures. Expenditures are trending about 1.5 or 1.6 lower than forecasted. The net impact of the trend is a favorable $2.7 million, and the projected deficit spend down is about $9.5 million for this year. So moving on to revenues. September revenues are about $3.1 million higher than last year at this time, or compared to September of last year, and they're primarily because we received the homestead and rollback a month earlier. This year we received it in September. We typically receive it in October, and that represents about a little over $3 million. So without these funds, revenues would have been approximately $4 million lower in September in comparison than last September. So next month when I do October's, we're going to see that variance go the other way. Actual revenues, year-to-date revenues are about $990,000 or 2.7% lower than last year, despite the earlier homestead and rollback payment. Without these funds, revenues would have been about $4 million lower. And the decrease is primarily due to the property tax revenue decrease from the expired tax levy. Moving on to expenditures. Expenditures are about $329,000 lower than last September, which is primarily in the non-personnel expenses. Salary and benefits are actually higher year over year. The variance is largely due to the timing of payments and a portion of one-time mobile units and setup costs in the non-personnel area. Year-to-date expenditures are about $1.4 million higher, or 6.1% higher than last year, year-to-date, and which is primarily driven by salary and benefits. which is in our negotiated agreements, and also the one-time signing bonus for OPSI in August. Moving on in comparison to the forecast, as stated, revenues is trending about $1.2 million higher, or 1.42%, and there's twofold as to why. First, it's, I don't know if anyone saw the news, but on Cuyahoga County, they're giving a reimbursement back to school districts. Every year, when they collect our taxes in our settlement, they take out fees for them collecting it, and part of their fee is to pay for the annual reappraisal, or the reappraisals that they do every 3 to 6 years, and it's an ongoing expense that comes out. Well, this year, when they did the sexennial reappraisal, they had a savings, I think overall $35 million that was redistributed back to governments in Cuyahoga County. So our portion of that $35 million was about $882,000. And then we also received within our state foundation, as the report cards came out, based on our performance, we received the $300,000 performance bonus from the Department of Education. So that total of close to the 1.2 was the reason why that variance, and both were received after the forecast was approved. And so at the time of the forecast, they were unknown. Expenditures are trending about $1.5 million less, or 1.6%. And the main reasons are salaries and benefits. We're trending about $976,000 less, which is about 1.2% below the $80 million forecast for that grouping. Some key variances so far are subcosts. They're trending about $112,000 lower in salaries and $172,000 lower in benefits, primarily due to the full-time positions remaining unfilled as substitutes cover teacher leaves. And then in other positions, we're seeing some openings due to just open positions as people go on leave, and until those positions are filled, we kind of see those leaves. So based on some legislative changes that occurred in the biennium budget, our forecasts have to be done earlier and then must also align to our annual budget, which is kind of why we're seeing some of these variances. As in the past, our forecasts were due to the state in November, and we can incorporate these trends within the November forecast. But as they're due earlier, you're using August data to prepare that, which is kind of 2 weeks into the school year. Next year, this was kind of a transition year. Next year, forecasts are due in August, so you're even using assumptions. So these variances are going to kind of continue, I would say. And then when we set May forecasts, you're also going to, that got moved up to February based on the legislative changes. So we're going to be using kind of December, January data for those. So we'll continue to track these and report as during the monthly reports. But as I mentioned during my my forecast presentation, that the forecast is fluid. It provides a fiscal roadmap of where we're headed. We're going to have some twists and turns along the road, but ultimately we're still going to be this deficit spending, and the funding cliff is going to be in the same fiscal year it was before. So and throughout the year, we're always looking for efficiencies where we can gain some revenues, we can have some cost savings. So that's part of it as well. So we'll continue to forecast out monthly as we're doing now and report back each month. And when the forecasts are due this date, we'll report it what we know at that time. So any questions on the financial report?
I do have one question, George.
Sure.
You spoke of the refund that we're getting from Cuyahoga County. In your tenure as treasurer here, I know you worked previously in Cleveland, have you seen this happen before?
No, they actually, not this large.
Okay.
I think they've stated that in one of their articles too, in their press release. I think the last sexennial reappraisal, I think we got back, it was under 100,000. It might have been around 35 to 40,000, somewhere in that range. I think they've done a lot more in-house than rather outsourcing it, which caused part of the savings.
So not necessarily something you could have predicted happening?
No. And it's nothing they kind of gave us a warning about either.
Okay.
Or a heads up on.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on the financial report? Just one other one I wanted to touch on, the 070 fund, just give an update on the balance. Year-to-date interest for fiscal year 26, we're about 182,000. Total year-to-date expenditures, or life-to-date, I would say, of the fund expenditures of 2.9 million. There's an additional 2.4 in purchase orders that are tied up in projects, leaving an unencumbered cash balance of 21.4 million. And then the next item I have under Treasurer's Report is item 8.2, grant approval. We have one grant from the Strongsville Education Foundation for Strongsville Middle School video camera for the broadcasting and media class of $757. Item E3, increase in petty cash and change fund. There was one change. We added an additional register at the middle school, which they need startup funds. So it increased their startup from $1,000 to $1,084, so an increase of $84. And lastly, the appropriation measure, be it resolved upon the recommendation that the treasurer, that the amended permanent appropriations be approved. There were two changes, one for the SEF grant of $757, and then another one within the 070 fund, which will be an item that you're voting on under business services for the fire panels for Kinsler and Sarar. Typically, I would wait a month after it's approved, but the projects are time sensitive for the fire panels for us to move forward. So I've added it now, and we could adjust later if, depending on the vote and business services. And that concludes my report if there's no other questions.
Any other questions for George? Thank you, George.
Yep, thank you.
At this time, we'll move on to item F, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Iba.
Thank you, Mrs. Bissell. So I'm going to ask Kevin Klein to come up to the podium and share an update and overview of our upcoming calendar. So as the board and community knows, our academic calendar, the last year we have is this year. So we have a committee that's put together that's representative of stakeholders, of parents, staff, administration, and teachers. And their job is to recommend the next 2 years of our calendar. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, who will give an update on behalf of the full committee.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I'm disappointed. I was hoping I would walk up with some walk-up music from Dan Faust. I was hoping for some music, so I'm a little disappointed I didn't get any. So instead, I'll start off this little party with some party poppers. There we go. There we go. All right, let's. The fate of everybody's hands can now be released. We can put our schedules, instead of being on hold, we can now advance with our schedules, as long as the board approves. So first of all, I wanted to start off with a couple of main themes that I thought would be beneficial for people to know. So the calendar is somewhat guided by a few general principles, and one of the main things is, and I'll try to go, so Cameron, I don't know if you want to go up and down as I...
George will lead.
Oh, George says, okay. Yeah. So I'll go with somewhat in order here. So the first thing is we want to have as few 2-day weeks as possible. So if we go into November, you can see that's our first 2-day week, but that's one of the committee's requirements is that we need 3 days around Thanksgiving. So that's one thing that you'll see there. The next thing is, and this has been something that both the community wants, the staff wants, really everybody wants, is 2 weeks around Christmas and New Year's. So we have our 2-week break there. And then if we go a little farther into where spring break is, that's somewhat guided by Polaris, or I would say that is guided by Polaris with an agreement. So those things are essentially set. And then the last thing is trying to make sure that we get out in May and that we do not extend school into June. So I think another couple things that are worthwhile noting here, so if we go back to August, is one of the benefits of starting this early is all of the state testing, AP testing that we have. The more content that we can get through, the better off our students are. So by pushing things back into that second week of August, at least for the teacher start date, that does, because of the 4 days that we have, professional days, convocation, that does allow the students to start on the 18th. So that does get their start day a little bit later. But that does allow us to get a lot more curriculum in so that we can more prepare our students for the end goal of AP test and state testing. And as we know, that's a tremendous indicator on our state report card. And I think those are very valuable lessons and very valuable things that we need to do to make sure that our students get as much content as possible. Now, as far as a lot of the other things that are in here, there's The conference dates, so I don't know if we can get into all those and why some of those things were chosen, but I think those are the main guiding principles, and then that does allow us, so if you scroll down to May again, that does allow us to finish the school year the 28th, which is the day prior to Memorial Day for the end date. So if there's other little things, we can talk about conferences, we can talk about quarter placements. So one more little thing, if we scroll back up and off to the right-hand side, you see that in quarter one we have 41 days, 39 in quarter two, quarter three, 47, quarter four, 49. I think some people might look at that as an imbalance, which of course it is. But one of the reasons behind the imbalance is second semester, again, we have a lot of state testing, we have AP testing at the high school level. So all of those things really cut out a lot of days, and I feel like it actually looks a lot more balanced than it actually does appear. So I don't know if you have any other questions or if you want me to get into anything else, I'm happy to do so. But I thought that would be the general overview. And then the 27-28 calendar is essentially the same thing. We just put the dates shift a day, but everything is in the exact same location as far as where the placement goes. So you see we start on the 11th. That would be the comparable date to the 12th. It still starts on a Wednesday from the year prior. And we would still end in May, the Friday prior to Memorial Day. So do you have any questions? Anything else you would like me to get into? I know Kilbane said he wanted me to talk as long as possible, so I don't know if that was long enough. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question about the conferences. I see that we still have the teal color for PT conferences and no school, but I don't see any of those dates. So did we move away from that model?
So we have parent-teacher conferences are on, the full day is on the 8th of October.
So, okay, so does that need to be coded
And then that is
different?
followed up on the 9th with the comp day. So the students and staff would be off on October 9th. And then if you look the week prior, so September 29th and 30th, those are the evening conferences for the 6 through 12 for one conference and then pre-K through 5 for the other set of conferences.
What am I missing? Am I missing the coloring? Like the color, is it me?
Here's the evening.
Yeah, but the color, if you scroll down, George, look at the color coding. That's the part I'm confused about. See how it says PT conferences, no school for students like we had this year, but there's no teal on the calendar.
We just have to correct that color.
So it's just a color issue? So it's
Yeah.
supposed to be the 8th? Is that the idea?
It is.
Okay,
I'll fix it here shortly.
okay. I just want to make sure I understand, because I thought maybe we changed the model. But no,
No.
we kept it the same, where there's one full day.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we thought it made more sense to put the full day conference on the 8th and the day off on the 9th. That could allow the kids, the parents, the community to have a 4-day weekend that weekend. Any other questions?
I remember last year, 2 years ago when we did this, some of the concern with having the 4-day weekend there, the 8th, 9th, was that people wouldn't come to the conferences, they would leave. Was that something you all discussed?
We did discuss that, yes. And so I think this might be somewhat of a trial run to
Okay.
see how does it go. We can take some data and see if that does impact it, and if it does in fact impact it, we can adjust going forward.
Fair enough, thank you.
I think one of the things that was brought up from the parents, if I remember correctly, was how it was structured the last 2 years of this week we had a random Thursday off, and the next week we had a Friday off. That from a parental and childcare perspective, they appreciated more of this move to have just, 2 consecutive days.
I will say also in the past, we've had it like this, where it was the Thursday prior to, and then the Friday off. And we always had really good attendance. Now that was years ago, so we'll have to see, like Kevin said, if it impacts it. Plus, you're going to have the evening ones prior, so they may come those days and less on, so it's going to be hard to tell, but take a look at it.
And I think it could be a situation too, I think at the high school we saw this year that the evening conferences were not that well attended. So this might end up flipping things where maybe now on the 29th, 30th, we see more parents coming to the evening conferences so that they can then have the 8th free, or maybe come earlier on the 8th so that they can, if they have weekend plans, they can get to those a little quicker.
All right, appreciate that, thank you.
Kevin, the only other thing I'd like you to talk about is on May 4th. I think that's the 26, 27, because that's a new addition to our calendar of taking that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the May 4th, I'll read a couple things that are there. So we have a professional development day for pre-K through 8. And on that day, that's AP testing for the high school, so we would still have the high school in session. But Cameron, you can add to this if you want. I'm fairly certain that was the day that we ended up having where we had lots of AP tests, and we didn't even have the students come to school that day, except for the ones that were taking the AP test.
And it's also election day, and so that was something that came out of the elementary level. And the middle school too was, it's difficult to have an election day that we have students in session. We don't do it in November. And so that compiled with the needs at the high school. The high school had to be in for AP testing, so put that together. That's a new addition to this year based on that feedback. Any other questions for Kevin?
I don't know if it's a question for Kevin or just something to think about, and not necessarily this this calendar, but collect the data for the next 2 years. We're looking at personalized pathways for education. We're looking at all kinds of personalized pathways, and with the technology that we have today, I'm wondering if we need to schedule a day for conferences that we carve out versus being able to do it dynamically as the day goes on. And again, I don't think it's something we need to consider in this one, but in conjunction with our parents showing up, et cetera. Anecdotally, it always seems like you hear, whether it's parents or teachers, saying, you know, the parents who show up aren't the ones I needed to talk to, and vice versa. So maybe there's something there.
Okay. Any other questions?
So if we don't pass this, does that make all of your noise?
I'll just have to come and present again. I have a whole box of them, so I still have another dozen, I think. So.
That's a
I'll just come
temptation
back.
now.
Maybe then I can get some walk-up music from Faust.
Yeah.
I actually almost emailed you. That's that close. Okay.
Appreciate it, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next steps for the calendar are, I have an update that goes to our parents and staff on Monday. We will share this calendar with them. We'll give a feedback survey, and then we will take the next month for people to give feedback. We'll collect that feedback, look at common themes, share it with the calendar committee again, get their guidance on if they want to make any recommendations based on those themes. We'll bring it back to the board at our regular meeting in November and consider if there's any possible tweaks to be made. But that's the time that the board will vote on the calendar. From a community parental's perspective, I know it's appreciated if we get it out before winter break, since that's a lot of times some families have to put in their vacation schedules for the years to come. So that's the process, the next steps. You're welcome. Next on the agenda, I'm going to ask Aaron and Nicole to come and join us at the table to share their presentation on our state report card from the previous year.
Well, good evening. We appreciate the time tonight to go through our report card, as Dr. Ryba said. So this is the 24-25 report card, meaning it's last year's data, obviously. The state puts this out every year for all the districts, all the buildings, and we wanted to take a few minutes tonight to go through it. We'll give you a relatively high-level overview, but please feel free to interject with questions that you may have. As Mrs. Bissell shared, the strategic plan is what we base everything on, and transforming teaching and learning and aligning our staff and resources are huge parts of what we do here as a district. As you'll see, a lot of this information has to do with these two items, and although we do so many more things that can't be measured on a state report card, this is what is tangible that we can collect as a district and as the state, so we'll share what data we have on this.
The 2024-2025 state report card differs slightly from the previous year in that a sixth component was added. We discussed this last year. We anticipated the addition of college, career, workforce, and military readiness as a component. That also changes the breakdown of the percentages that each component contributes to the overall rating of the district. By state law, achievement and progress have to represent 50% of that rating, and then the other 4 components, at least at the district level, contribute 12.5% each.
So here is the district overall report card. You'll see that there are the 6 areas that Nicole just referenced. Our overall district rating is a 4.5 or 4.5 stars, which exceeds state standards per the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce rating scale. We're going to break these down in more detail, but you can see all of our measurements. They range from 3 to 5 stars as we move forward here.
Here's the rating distribution for districts for this year throughout the state. Our rating of a 4.5 puts Strongsville among the top 23.3% of districts in our state.
And we like to give kind of a ballpark of where we fall in relation to similar districts. So the state does a really nice thing where they take the top 20 districts that are most similar to your district, your named district, so in this case, obviously Strongsville, and they look at a variety of factors when they compare and they create this list. So these are our top 20 most similar district ratings, and it just gives you kind of an eyeball of where we fall in relation, and you'll see that we are very similar, 4s and 5s and some 4.5s between the 20 districts. I know it's very hard to see, but
This next graph shows where we are in relationship to our comparable districts on the performance index. The performance index is based on students' performance on state tests. As you can see, we are 5th of the 20 districts similar to ours in that particular rating. The district score maximum performance is derived by averaging the highest 2 percentages of performance index scores. It goes through, they look at the highest, and then that becomes what factors into how the performance index is calculated.
and an overview of our building report cards. So each building also gets a holistic rating. On the left-hand side, the furthest left-hand column is the overall rating. You'll see that all of our buildings here in Strongsville, either a 4 or a 5 star. They don't do the half increments for the buildings. And then it breaks down each of those components as well and shows you where we fell with each building.
Again, here's the distribution for the schools throughout the state. Our schools are in the top 22.3% of schools in Ohio, all of our buildings.
All right, the first component is our achievement component, and this is something we've talked about for many years, but this is how our students are achieving. So we're not looking at just who scored proficient, but actually weighing each student's score. The higher they score, the higher weight that's attributed to it. So when you do this formula, the achievement is a 90.5% on our performance index, which when you look at the graph on the right, corresponds to a 5-star rating, significantly exceeding state standards in academic achievement. So our students are not just passing the test, but we have a lot of students passing higher than the proficient target, which is what we want.
The next component is progress. Our district scored 4 stars on this component. The progress component measures the academic performance of students compared to the expected growth on Ohio State tests. So this is that score that we talk about, the analogy of if we start running at the beginning, imagine a cross-country race, if everyone starts running at the beginning of the year, are we making the same, are the kids staying in the same place by the end of the race? Are they moving forward? Are they dropping back in relationship to their peers? So that's this growth index. Unfortunately, we surpassed, our growth index itself was a 12.43, which well surpassed the required 2 to land in a 4 or a 5. Unfortunately, we missed the effect size by 1/100th of a point to land in 5 stars. So we were very, very close. And what that effect size does is it's a positive or negative number that indicates the magnitude of growth or how certain we are that the contributing factor was instruction specifically. Again, here's a graph showing, or a table showing our performance on value added. This, again, is the combination of 3 years of growth. So we're going to see, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, even in places where we've made some progress in our growth in the past year, it may not register on this quite yet because this shows 3 years combined, with the current year comprising 50% and the past 2 years at 25% each. The high school, we want to highlight this, is a standout when it comes to growth index. They had a growth index of 28.62 and an effect size of 0.39, which is outstanding, and places them as number 2 in the entire state for growth out of 3,004 buildings. So we are very, very proud of their progress in this area.
All right, moving on to gap closing. This is the measure where we look at, are we closing gaps in our subgroups? So not just, looking at all kids, but also our subgroups of students. With this, you can see that we had 5 stars, significantly exceeding the state. And what we're measuring here are performance expectations in English language arts, math, and graduation. And we also look at our English learners. Are they learning English? Are they becoming more fluent? Reducing chronic absenteeism as a part of this measure, gifted students, and then providing gifted services. So there is an annual goal set by the state, which is raised each year. And we'll show you here the 8 measures that I just mentioned. This is what we're looking at with our subgroups. And we have 9 subgroups, so we have almost all of the possible subgroups within our district. And here is the subgroup achievement. So the yellow or orange dot that you see is the state target for where we should be. We are looking on the left-hand side at English language arts achievement, and then on the right, math achievement. And each of those colored bars represents one of our subgroups. You can see in this area we did really well. All of the achievement has surpassed the targets. And then when we move to growth, so this is not just achievement, but are we making that growth? On the left-hand side of this graph, we have the English language arts growth. On the right-hand side, math growth. And this one obviously looks considerably different. We have some areas in English language arts where we need to continue to build this. The encouraging news is that our gap is less than last year. But obviously, we want to continue to close that gap. Yeah.
What, I can't tell here, what ages are these? Is this all K-12?
It's 3rd through 10th, whenever they do the state testing. So they take all of those, not AP or anything, but just the state tests.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And subgroup achievement for graduation, similar measure here. You can see with each subgroup where the target is set. And the right-hand side is our English learners, where the expectation is, where our English learners will achieve. And we have surpassed that as well. Moving into the gifted indicator, there's 3 components of this that they make up the overall component. So value-added rating, are our gifted students growing? Are we adding that value? The performance index, so are they achieving at high levels? And then our services and identification as a district. The one that we met was our value-added rating, so we're definitely growing the kids. The performance index, we needed a 97.5 to achieve that. We got a 97.4%. So not something I'm, critically concerned about, but obviously where we're going to continue to work. And then the area of identification and service, that's more of a district logistical area in which challenging to get this for all districts. It has to do with where you identify, when you identify, how you serve our gifted students, and the teachers that are qualified as gifted, and so forth. So I think maybe 6 districts achieved that last one. So overall, did well with the gifted, but want to continue to grow that as well.
Graduation rate is one of the components that is a year in arrears. So what you were looking at is actually the graduation rate for the class of 2024. So they show up in the class in our report card for 24-25. This component measures both the 4-year graduation rate and the 5-year graduation rate. 60% is that 4-year rate, and 50% of the measure is the 5-year rate. If you take a look, we are at 96.4, and 96.5 would have moved us from 4 stars to 5 stars. Interestingly, that's different for the district because we have a couple of students who counted towards the district total that are outside of the high school component, or the high school's total. So the high school actually earned the 5-star rating on graduation, which seems a little curious, but it's because of that reason. We have a couple students that are students of the district but are not students at the high school, and they factored into this component. That being said, I will tell you that the projected graduation rate for next year will be 98.5%. So we will meet the 5-star measure based on our current projections for next year with the class of 2025, since we already have that data. And this part just shows the breakdown of which students contribute to that. You'll notice that 11.8% of the class of 2024 deferred diplomas, meaning that they met the requirement but stayed on for a 5th year as is allowed by law for students with disabilities. If you think about it, the class of 2024 has a distinction of having started high school in the year of 2020. We have fewer students falling into this category in subsequent years, largely because of the school interruption. More students stayed a 5th year, understandably so, and that would be something we would want to offer for them, of course.
All right, the next component is our early literacy component. 4 stars in this, which is the same as we had last year. This is a 3-pronged approach where it looks at 3 different measures and gives you the holistic percentage. Those 3 areas are how many students scored, what the 50 is the number you need on the reading 3rd grade test in 3rd grade. How many students were promoted to 4th grade from 3rd grade, obviously. And then tracking students year to year. So if they're on reading improvement plans, how did they do the following fall when we reevaluated them? So if you look here, this is essentially where we fall with our RIMPs. This is the area I wanted to focus on the most. When we identify students in the fall, again, we provide interventions, we do a whole lot with our kiddos, and then we assess them the following year. If they come off of the RIMP, that gives us the credit. If they stay on the RIMP, it does not. So although it's a somewhat convoluted way in order to measure what we're doing, you can see that this is an area, again, where we want to continue to focus. Already just kind of looking ahead, we use AIMSweb, which is our progress monitoring tool. They re-normed this summer, and they also changed their 1st grade measure. So I took a peek at it, and we're already about half of the number of RIMPs currently than we had last year at this time. So it, again, it's very, I don't want to say subjective, but there are variables that affect this. And so in looking at that, I don't want to misconstrue that we're not growing our kids. So I added this slide. This is the AIMSweb cones, as we call them, the pyramids, what we do with our MTSS. So when you see a green area, that's our students who are achieving at level, tier 1. The yellow are the ones who are more at risk, and the red at the top are our at-risk students. So this is all reading. It's kindergarten, 1st grade's below it, 2nd grade's on the right, and 3rd is below it. You can see exactly what we want to happen is the red gets smaller. So from fall to winter to spring, obviously, we are growing our kids. This is last year's data. Just as an assurance, although the measure didn't look quite as strong as we wanted it to, this is another data point. One other one, looking at our 3rd grade test data, just did 2 years of data. So how did we perform in 23-24 and then 24-25? So you can see the scaled score. That's the average score that our kids earned on the test. A 700 is proficient. Our average district score was a 735 both years. And then if you looked at the breakdown below it, The one on top is the 24-25 school year. You'll see that, there's slight variation, but we do have a higher percentage in the purple, which is the area in which we want to grow the kids, the advanced area. We have a lower percentage in those who are non-proficient. So we're continuing to make gains, even as the state, continues to raise their bar. We as a district are responding, and I feel confident that what we're doing is working.
This is the new component, the college, career, workforce, and military readiness component. As you may recall, last year, this was not a measured component. We got a percentage, but they didn't add it as a star rating onto our report card. This year, it was added. And again, we'll be looking at the data for the class of 2024 in this particular report. Our class of 2024, 71.1% of our students met one of the 11 readiness components. Now, many of our students meet more than one, but they need to meet at least one of the 11 readiness components. And we had 71.1%, which was up 11.8 percentage points from the previous year. So it's an improvement. We actually didn't know until, I want to say, spring of last year where the cutoff percentages were going to be for these star ratings. So the next rating would be at like a 75%. So we're close to it, but like many districts similar to ours, this was a new rating that we didn't perform as well as we might hope to in the first year out. But again, not knowing those measures, I think many people were kind of surprised where their rating landed this first year. Looking at next year, we should be in a decent spot for the class of 2025. Again, we were still reacting to the shift in the adding of this component. And I fully expect by the class of 2026, we will be in a much better spot in this area. If you take a look, this is the graph that shows the percentage of students in each area the percent of students who earned each of these components. And as you can see, we still have like a 0 reporting for military. That's a reporting error, something that we've addressed and will be corrected for next year. There's a couple places where it's a matter of just cleaning up. We have students that are maybe meeting these components, but with better reporting, following them and tracking them a little bit better, they will count towards this number in upcoming reports in a way they haven't for the class of 2024.
Well, is that the same thing that's true for the AP 3s or plus? I don't see any of those either, and we have to have some.
Oh, we have many. I don't know. That's the 20. I don't know. This chart looks wrong to me. Now that you mention that, because there should be a purple one, and you're right, that should be a very high percentage. So I'm not sure what's happening there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so in summation, before we take any questions you may have, just wanted to give our insights to this. What are we proud of? What are we accomplishing? And then where do we know we still want to continue to focus, and what are we doing? So elementary-wise, I think a highlight, and it was relevant, or it was shown on the building report cards and the district, is our achievement and our gap closing. So our kids are performing, we're closing gaps with those subgroups. Areas that we want to continue to build upon is the progress. So are we gaining that expected growth that we should? And then obviously the early literacy piece as well. Some things that we have in place, as you're well aware, our new ELA series, which is the CKLA. I feel that that is a huge step forward with this progress piece. And why I say that is it's providing Tier 1 instruction at grade level for all students. Now, we can enrich and we can intervene beyond that, but this is a first for us to be comprehensive and consistent across all the grade levels with what we're providing. So I feel that that's going to, there will be a lapse. It may not happen immediately, but we're going to see huge gains in our students from that.
At the secondary level, some highlights we'd like to share is this is the high school's third year in a row earning a 5-star rating. We're very proud of them. And as we mentioned previously, they were second in the state for value added in the growth measurement, which was outstanding. In addition, they met gap closing in all of their subgroups. At the middle school, Math 7, for the second year in a row, has moved and has improved. Their value added was at a plus 2.3 on a value added score. Again, it's going to take a minute for it's going to take a year or two for that to register on that chart that we're looking at, because it is a 3-year component. But we're proud of the progress we're making there. Something that the team there and our 8th grade team also had a second year, 8th grade math for the second year in a row had an improvement in their value added score. So they're doing a better job with growth. Again, we added new materials last year. We've kind of changed our focus, adding more of a conceptual bent to our instruction in math and an experienced formalized later methodology to teaching math, which we think is really paying off for our students, and you can see it in these improvements. As far as areas for ongoing support, obviously the college career and workforce and military readiness measure, it being new to us, is something we've spent a lot of time focusing on. It's an area we want to provide for our students beyond just the measure. These are things we want for our kids. We want our kids to all have an idea and experiences in high school that help lead to where they land after they leave us. So that's an area that we are focused on and are doing a lot of work with. As you may remember, we even had all of our 11th graders who took speech in the spring semester do interviews as part of this component. This is the kinds of career experiences we're affording our kids and adding to their schedules and to their high school experience that we're very proud of and we think will contribute to this measure in the future. And at the high school, continued growth, working on progress and value added is one of our goals, obviously. We're in our second year of new materials in 3 of our 4 core content areas, and we're making a lot of progress in their implementation and use, and are proud of what's happening, especially with the math growth.
So with that, we'd like to offer time for questions. If you have anything on this, on the data, or questions we can answer about the components.
Any questions?
Very good presentation. Very well.
But we thank you all for your support as well.
Well, I'm not done.
Yes.
So close.
I'll give you a credit for trying.
Okay.
What do you need from us? Patience? Do we need to target something? All of the above?
I think as we share, it's, I'll say the patience, the trust in us that we have a great plan and it's working. It just takes some time. With the implementation of our new ELA material, they recommend 3 to 5 years before you really see a payoff. I think we'll see it quicker than that, but I also, appreciate the trust that you provide us to select high-quality instructional materials and do what we know is best for kids. I do think it will be substantial when we get those scores in the next, few years.
1, 2, 3. What's a few years?
Well, 3, sir.
And I would also ask, what are we targeting? Right? Let's get specific about where we want to see the growth. I think Nicole and Aaron have done a great job of saying, here's the identified areas of focus. But as I take a look at the report card, I think it's something to celebrate, as I know the board does, right? We are living in a dynamic district that our demographics over the years have changed, and our teachers, our skill set, our methodology has evolved to meet those demands. So, frustrating, not frustrating, the fact that we're talking about hundredths of a point and a tenth of a point there. That was the difference between 5 stars versus 4 stars. That doesn't mean that anybody in this room is not highly driven to make sure whatever the report card ratings are going to be, our driving force is the experience we're creating for our kids so that they could, have all the skills and content and knowledge necessary to have a path moving forward. So I think that's the part of, as we reflect on this, whether it's tonight or in the future, to think about. We have a 3-year strategic plan that really is paying dividends with the work that we're doing. The board has blessed us with resources and supports and professional development days and all of those things necessary to provide the work that's needed to evolve what's happening in a classroom to continue to get these results that we're getting. So I guess I wouldn't say patience, because I think we're there. I think we've arrived. And again, I don't want that to come off as bravado to say, you know, we've achieved and we're great here. But I think if we look at the context of the progression we've made as all the years we've been together, right? Of the fact that, you know, we struggled in the report card for a lot of years. And then, you know, we've been successful, highly successful for a good number of those years now. But, you know, we've pinpointed, hey, early literacy is something that we need to work on. That student growth at the elementary level is something we need to work on. Nicole's been, you know, really driven for the college, career, workforce readiness and some of those other areas. So I would say, what's on your mind, Rich, in terms of points where we're saying 1, 2, 3 years? What are you thinking?
I'm looking at the reading, and I'm not, I mean, again, we should laud the fact that over the last 10 years, we've improved, and we're improving in the right direction. But one of the things, and I was going to ask it afterwards, but I'll just ask it now, I'd like to see the numbers. You know, when you see those triangles and they're small, but you don't know if am I talking about 2 kids? Am I talking about 12 kids? But for me, it's acknowledging that we're doing tremendous for the majority, but whether it's 2 kids or 5 kids or 12 kids, that's where I'm focused on.
Do you guys get an overall sentiment about how our educators and teachers are feeling about the work and how what they're teaching is applying to these outcomes? Are teachers feeling good?
I think they're feeling motivated. I think a lot of the structures that we have in place, the collaborative structures that we have in place that allow our teachers to work together to create experiences for our students are really paying off. And I think it's a huge motivator. I can say when I was in the classroom and on a team, being part of a team is a great thing and something that not all districts afford their teachers. And us having that ability to offer that to teachers to build their collective capacity as a group so that we serve our students better, I think it's a huge motivating factor, and they feel good about the progress they're making. The value-added scores by teacher come out soon. They were supposed to come out this week, but they've been delayed. And I know a lot of teachers keep checking in, going, when do those come out? Because they want to see how they did. They're very proud of the work they've done, but they also like to see, well, where else can I improve? What can I do next? And I think the sentiment I see is, yes, this is great, and we're doing great things, but what's next? And I always find that really, really inspiring, that we want to keep doing more for our kids. So that's what I'm seeing.
I would just add to that very well said, but I would also add that the agency, I think Nicole is alluding to this, the agency that our teachers are feeling right now has shot up tremendously. It's exciting to go around to the classrooms and have them say, hey, I had this idea and I want to share this with you, and can we, I went to this conference and I heard about this and I really want to implement this. What do we need to do to make this happen? And the other piece of it, when we look at our professional development sessions, our teachers are leading the teachers. And so we've empowered them to be the experts, to be sharing the information, and when it comes from them to their colleagues, they can problem solve quicker, they know the ins and outs of it and the weeds of it, and it comes across much better. And I also think on the professional development days, it's not all about learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this, and now go back to your classroom. It's learn this, talk as a team, as Nicole shared, collaborate together, how can we implement this? And so we're seeing an impact of not only what they're learning, but then impacting it within the classroom. And it's just exciting to see they keep wanting more, like you said, and wanting to continue to learn and grow and then share what they're doing with others. So I think that's where we've made our most of our growth.
Cameron, I just wanted to offer, you asked Rich this question
Yeah.
about like what specifically are you
Yeah.
looking at? Just there's one thing that I thought of as I've read all these numbers, and it wasn't anything presented here, but when I looked at it myself, and you guys know this, in all these stars over the whole district, like we do a fantastic job. There are 2 twos in the whole district.
Mhm.
If I want to talk about something that we can say, can we improve
Yeah.
this and get rid of all the 2s entirely and know for sure, I think that's achievable for us.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that. They're both in elementary buildings, to see that equity even out. So I think if I remember correctly, they are in the areas that you said we're going to work on for elementary. But just to say, hey, is there a direct way we can measure it? I think that's something achievable for, it's a 3-year measure, so that's the trick. But in the next year or two,
Yeah.
I think we could see that improve.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Just as thanks again to Aaron and Nicole, not only for the presentation, but the leadership that they provide over the teaching and learning and instruction across the district. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also thank, Dave out there and Andy and Jenny. They're all part of the instructional team. So Dave does a tremendous amount of work looking at how he can use the resources and tools that his department oversees to help increase and improve the student experience. And Andy takes a look at a big part of our strategic plan is about how do we support students social emotionally, how do we support them behaviorally, and the work that he is doing is really transforming the classroom environment and the experience for our kids. And then Jenny's got a big job to oversee and guide and lead and coach as a whole department. And again, we as the administrators have the opportunity to be in front and share with you, but we've got 800 employees that make this happen. Right, and this is not just about, a big part of it is about our wonderful teachers in the classroom. I mean, we really do have outstanding teachers that are doing amazing things in the classroom each and every day, going above and beyond, working so hard to meet all of these needs we're talking about. But it also happens with our cafeteria staff and our monitors and our educational aides and our bus drivers. They all have a part of creating a student experience that ensures that our students are ready to learn and have those supports necessary that are there. So just this is truly something to celebrate as a district. And again, Rich, I always appreciate your question. How can we support? What could we do? And I hope that you guys have an opportunity to reflect and look back to say, a few years ago, we weren't structured this way administratively. A few years ago, we did not have reading support at Kinsner and Sarar and in those buildings. And a few years ago, we didn't have as many intervention specialists or an MI classroom at Maraski. Those are all decisions that you made that put the bricks into place that led to a path that's getting to these better results. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone to the board for their leadership and support in this work. Yeah. So with that, we'll move over to business services. We do have a couple items for your consideration, and the first item is an action item. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the GPD group proposal for architectural and engineering services for the baseball softball field renovation project as listed in the exhibit at the total quoted price of $104,885. Funding to be from the Capital Projects Fund.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Can you tell us what we're talking about here, Cameron?
Sure. As we've talked over the past handful of meetings, we've been taking a look at the needs for our baseball, softball project. The first thing that we need to do is to have some architectural drawings and engineering done to see, let's design the space and see what it would look like. That is the very first task to do, and then that task becomes looking for permits and going out to bid. And so this keeps us on pace that if we want to actually move forward and with this project to be ready to go for spring of '27, this puts us on a timeline to do it. So it's just designing the fields at this point. Although you'll see in the contract there's a lot of tasks 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those would be amendments, addendums to this contract should the board wish to move forward with the project. So this is not committing to the project. It's just saying, let's start designing it, see where we're at, and the board can make future decisions at a later date.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about this before we vote? George, can you take the vote?
Ms. Lunchuk?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes. Motion carries.
Item number 2 is also an action item. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the ANR fire and security proposal to upgrade the existing fire alarm panel at Kinsner Elementary School as listed in the exhibit at the total quoted price of $14,630.28. Funding will be from the 070 Capital Funds Project. The second paragraph says exactly the same thing. However, at Sarar Elementary School for the price of $14,936.05.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Back to you, Cameron.
So we have annual inspections by partners that look at our fire safety system. So there are updates that are needed and replacements of our systems at both of these buildings, and that will take care of it to get everything up to code. It's important to know that our buildings are still safe. These are just updating this equipment for the future.
Any questions? I do have one question as I was looking at these contracts. It says for the Kinzener one, we're taking a phased approach to replace the panel. I was just wondering what does that mean exactly and why are we taking a phased approach?
I'd have to, in talking with the company or in my communications with the company, it's a complete fix. I'd have to look. I don't have an answer for that tonight. I can talk with Steve. But as far as it's been communicated with me, it will be fixed at one time. Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was like a financial component or
No.
something else that we were waiting on because it seems that the funds are available.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any other questions? George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes. Motion carries.
And then finally, under number 3, we have a few gifts to recognize. Melissa McCutcheon donated miscellaneous school supplies valued at $425 to Kinzer Elementary School. And Whitney Elementary School received a $200 grant through Cyber Grants from Wendy Kinzel, designated for second grade classrooms. So our thanks to Wendy as well as Melissa for their generosity and their donations. With that, we'll move on to the curriculum report, and Aaron will share that for this month.
Just one item tonight. This was an overnight trip for the Strongsville High School girls varsity tennis team. This took place already because they were going to the Ohio High School girls varsity tennis team OHSAA state tennis tournament, October 15th through 17th. Participated, transportation was parent vehicles, and meals were paid by students and the athletic boosters.
Thank you, Aaron. Nothing under student services for this month, so Ryan will come up with the human resource report.
Thank you, Dr. Robert. Good evening, everyone. I have the following items in human resources for your consideration. Item 1, resignations, non-certificated. Item 2, appointments, non-certificated. Item 3, appointments, certificated substitutes. Item 4, appointments, non-certificated substitutes. Item 5, appointments, certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 6, appointments, non-certificated athletic supplemental. Item 7, appointments, game workers. Item 8, changes in hours, non-certificated. Item 9, change in status, non-certificated. Item 10, contract recommendations, non-certificated. Item 11, educational upgrades. Item 12, leaves of absence, certificated. Item 13, leaves of absence, non-certificated. Item 14, unpaid leaves, certificated. Item 15, unpaid leave, non-certificated. And item 16, volunteers, chaperones.
Thank you, Ryan. We have nothing under technology, so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Raba. Next on our agenda is report on Polaris Career Center, and I would provide that for you. There is a lot of exciting things going on at Polaris. First, I want to acknowledge one of our own Strongsville community members, Frank Fabrizi, was inducted to the Polaris Hall of Fame. We had an event last Tuesday. It was the advisory dinner where we collect all of the community members who serve in an advisory capacity for the different programs. So Frank does serve there and has served as a board member previously as well, appointed from Strongsville. So congratulations to Frank. He graduated from the truck mechanics program back when that program was a program. It has kind of morphed over the years, so it was a really nice evening. The culinary program there served over 350 people in a buffet-style dinner. It was a huge event where we got to honor 4 inductees and hear about the great things that Polaris is doing as part of the 50th anniversary. Second, there are a couple events coming up. Explorer Club is an opportunity for students in grades 4, 5, and 6. It's like a short little camp, I guess you could call it. December 9th and 10th, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. each night. And you get to sign up for a program as related to one of the fields. So you get cosmetology, culinary, building trades, usually some computer type projects. So there's jewelry making. I think there's a whole bunch of options. So you can check out the website there, and those usually fill up. So if you have a student in grades 4, 5, or 6, I would check that out soon and get your child registered. Additionally, this next Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m., so you're going to go to the trunk or treat here and then go over to Polaris for theirs, to bring your kids and do a little trick or treat event. And I'm going to tell you, they brought a robot to our last board meeting that they programmed to deliver candy. It's worth coming just to see that. You walk up to the machine, there's 3 buttons. I think it was Reese's. Of course, that's the one that everyone chose. Hershey and something else. You press the button, the robot arm goes out, picks up the single piece of candy, comes back in, drops it down a chute that then goes into your bag. Super cool. I'm looking forward to trying it for myself. I'm sure my kids are going to love it. So that's just kind of a taste of what's coming with the new ERA project that will open. We'll cut the ribbon in the springtime for the engineering, robotics, and automation program that'll be available starting next year. So if you're available, 6 to 8 next Thursday at Polaris for an indoor trick-or-treat event. And the final thing, not quite as exciting, but also very important, is just as we work on security and safety measures here, they're also taking a look at them there, and they've added some things, some cameras and voice communication systems in the entryway, and crisis intercoms added to the staff phone. So they're keeping up on safety measures for Polaris students, just as we would here. And that concludes my report. And we will move on to report on legislation. Richard?
Thank you, Michelle. I have 2 updates. This past week, the House passed House Bill 186, which is a 20 mil floor inflation cap. And they also passed House Bill 335, which is a inside millage inflation cap. And they're marketing both of them as Stop the Spikes, and it is to attempt to address the large increases in people's property tax valuations and subsequent increases in their property taxes. With respect to Strongsville, we are above the 20 mil floor currently, so House Bill 186 would have a very muted effect for Strongsville. And the inside millage cap would have some effect to Strongsville, but not severe. I will comment that House Bill 186 is being advertised as saving nearly $1.7 billion over the next 3 years in homeowners' taxes. The counter effect of that is the schools that are affected by it had been budgeting and planning on approximately $1.7 billion. So depending on what side of the coin you're on, it often is problematic that saving someone $1.7 billion means somebody who expected that $1.7 billion is now in a crisis. And so there are a number of school districts that would be affected by this that are advocating for it. There are a number of House bills being considered, all to address the property tax increase issue, and we'll continue to pay attention to it. I think there's over a dozen just from one legislator, Dave Thomas. So I almost feel like we need to start keeping a dashboard to just keep track of all of these. And if nothing else, record whether they would severely affect Strongsville City Schools and the city itself and the other property tax entities or not. But that concludes my report for now.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is board liaison reports. City Council, back to you.
I do have a few updates. City Council did meet earlier this week. They discussed, they renewed the 5-year contract with Republic for trash collection, and they're happy to report that there will be no change as far as the residents are concerned. We will not be looking at automatic trash machines, robots, those kinds of things. It'll still be the way it has been all along. The other one that I thought was interesting is they have a contract with Cuyahoga County to perform health inspections, food inspections, et cetera. And that contract is a 2-year contract that they're considering. And it is a large increase from previous years. In 1 year, it's a 12% increase. And so during the meeting, they dug into that a little bit. And Cuyahoga County is not receiving the income or the revenue that it used to from the state. And the consequence is they now need to increase the amount that they're going to charge Strongsville and all the other entities to do these kinds of inspections. So I always like to pay attention to that, because a lot of times you'll just hear, hey, we're making cuts to save money. Sometimes down the road, it's not quite the full story. Most importantly, Halloween in Strongsville is on October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. So please pay attention. There will be police presence throughout all of the residential neighborhoods, but obviously from 6 to 8 p.m. please be pay extra attention while driving in the neighborhoods. Dick's House of Sports is going to have their grand opening on Halloween also. Fortunately, that one's on Halloween, November 1st and November 2nd. And NOACA is going to have meetings about what to do about I-71. That meeting is on Wednesday, November 19th at the Strongsville Rec Center. And then there's a companion meeting on Thursday, November 20th at the Brunswick Rec Center. And then just 2 inside baseball updates. One, at the council meeting, they passed 3 TIFs for various economic development. It's on first reading for the Brewster's Ice Cream Store, the Dollar General Store, and the Sheetz Store. And I want to make sure that nobody thinks we just expect these things. I wanted to extend my thanks, and we keep on watching that these TIFs, the way Strongsville City Council structures it, they make sure to keep the school district whole. And not every city does it that way. A lot of times the TIF benefits on the one hand, but it is revenue taken away from the school district. So we thank them and look forward to that partnership. And then my last comment, again, under Inside Baseball, the city is working on next year's budget. They will be having meetings next year to go over that. And I did pay attention. The mayor is having meetings with Moody's and the various bond agencies. They are looking to refund their bonds, which ends up similar to what happened with us, potentially saving the taxpayer interest when those bonds are refunded. And it'll be good for us to pay attention to see what happens with the city and what the climate is for these kinds of activities, because we have intentions for next year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll move on to Strongsville Education Foundation. Kevin or Haley?
I'll take that. So big push right now for the Strongsville Education Foundation is the 2025 Casino Night, which is on November 22nd. So we are out hitting the streets for fundraisers and donations for sponsorships. So there is a new incentive that has come up from the Strongsville Foundation Education. If you have your sponsorship done by November 1st, then you get a chance to enter to win for 2 tickets to the Ohio State UCLA game and 2 pre-games VIP sideline passes. So if you're out there listening and you want to get your sponsorship in, please do that before November 1st. That will help. We have about 10, 15 more sponsorships we need to close for that event. So that is the big push for the foundation. Finances look good overall, but just in sales mode at the moment. Anything else? So that is it.
All right, thank you very much. Strongsville Council PTA. I went to the meeting last week, part of it anyway. The beginning of the meeting, Bill Winkler came, and he was our guest speaker. He talked about what Richard shared earlier about we're looking at some personalized learning pathways coming in the next couple of years. So to be on the lookout, I know Bill's going to start a committee that includes parents to kind of get people's feedback about what does this look like, what could this look like, what are your concerns, what are your ideas. So be on the lookout for that. That should come out soon. Couple of other things. Council PTA has collaborated with DARE. This is a new partnership. We used to have separate dances, Council PTA and the DARE. Now it's one thing. And the first one took place a couple weeks ago, and it went very well. So that's a great new partnership there. And as part of that, they collected a significant amount of food for the food pantry. So that's also a great thing. A lot of you in this room know this, but this past week there was a Cookies with the Candidates event right here in this room. If you weren't able to be here for that event, which we're thankful that the Council PTA hosted, it was the first time we've done something like that. There is a video available online, so you can check that out. Council PTA has rolled out their grant request program, so you can check with your individual PTA units. Grants are due by 11/7. There's a holiday luncheon coming up on December 4th for all PTA members at Meadowood at 11 a.m. And then Founders Day is always a big event in this. Well, it's February. I don't want to say spring. That's getting ahead of myself. It will be on February 18th. Details will be forthcoming, but they'll honor the Ohio PTA Achievement Awards at that event. It's a very nice event where you can see all the good work that's happening in the different PTA units. Final note is the next meeting will be Thursday, November 6th at 9:30 a.m. right here in this room, if anyone cares to join us. That concludes my report. And finally, Southwest General. Richard, anything?
No report.
Moving on to board committee reports. Finance Committee. We just had a meeting, so the next one will be to be determined. Same with policy. Facilities?
We have no report other than next meeting is November 18th at 6:30 p.m. and it will be out of our habit. It will be at the Strongsville Early Learning Preschool.
And finally, Business Advisory Council.
Our next meeting will be November 7th at 7:30 a.m. right here.
Very good. That concludes our reports. Next item is the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do I have any of those requests tonight? Can I have a motion to adopt this consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Any discussion? George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Dachek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes, motion carries. This time, we'll turn it back to Dr. Iba for superintendent's timely information.
Thanks, Ms. Bissell. So at the elementary level this month, we're going to start at Whitney Elementary School in our music class with Mrs. Fattenholz. So last year, she applied for a grant through our Education Foundation. So through their generosity and partnership with the Donlin family, they were able to purchase enough ukuleles to be utilized by their entire class. So throughout the year, kids will be learning to play them with the goal at the end of the year concert to perform a song or two for the rest of the class. So as a person who music was near and dear to my heart, I think it's just awesome that the kids can learn how to play the ukuleles, learn how to read a little bit of music, and just enjoy the joy that comes along with creating music. So that's a creative idea, got the funding necessary to make it a reality, to not just have 4 or 5 in the classroom, but to have a whole class performing together. And I think the pictures show how much the kids enjoy it. Heading on over to the middle school, we're going to highlight 8th grade science teacher, Miss Britton. They're learning about topography and how to read and interpret a topographic map. And so one of the cool things, I mean, this is a traditional, topic to explore, map reading in our schools, but I thought it was just such a creative way that she used topographical maps from the 60s here in Strongsville. When Strongsville was a lot different than Strongsville is now. So they were comparing not only the 60s maps, but looking at the 80s maps when Strongsville was going through a lot of growth. The kids not only got to look at what used to be where South Park Mall is now, to understand that there used to be, I didn't know this until I read this, that there used to be an airport in Strongsville. I guess I was the only one with this shake of the heads. It seemed like people knew. Did you know?
I did not know.
Okay.
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Okay. And then obviously seeing where they lived and what it used to look like years ago. So Ms. Britton, if you don't know, is a science teacher, 8th grade science teacher. So to be able to look at, reading the map, putting in some mini history lessons in there, and just spinning it in a way that's interesting and relevant to the kids, we just want to highlight that. Very creative, and been honored to know and work with Ms. Britton for a lot of years now. Next, going to the high school, we're going to go to Mr. Phelps' AP Human Geography class, and they've been taking a look at Cleveland immigration. So before I talk about kind of what we want to highlight, this class has been, 5, 6, 7 years. I lose track of time anymore, but it's a relatively newer AP class, but it's one of those classes that they've moved down for freshmen. So this is in Mr. Wingler and the high school's team's focus on expanding AP offering to all kids. This is one of the first AP offerings our kids could take. So they've been taking a look at immigration patterns in Cleveland. As they go into the second quarter, which just started this past week, they're working together in groups to research the impact of various migrant communities in the Cleveland area. You can see it in the little picture there, but there's some Google My Map shares different neighborhoods and landmarks relevant to the stories of the cultures that have come to make Cleveland, Cleveland. And so they've written reports, selected groups to focus on their contributions to the food, culture, celebrations. And so just another engaging project that has been put on for our kids in this class, in addition to Mr. Phelps, Mr. Collins, and Ms. Buchwald for the work that they've been doing, and another opportunity for our kids to get to know their surroundings, their community, and their city a little bit better. And then finally, in just dates, upcoming dates, in a couple weeks here, first of all, next week on Thursday, we've got Greet and Treat. Looks like maybe a little rainy in the morning, but okay in the afternoon, and still in the 50s, so it should be a nice evening for everybody. 5:30 to 7 o'clock at Packatan Stadium. Bring a donation for the Strongsville Food Bank to get in, and it's just a great community event for everybody. The following week, students get a 4-day weekend. We're off of school on the 3rd and 4th for voting day and staff professional development day, and both of those for our folks here. You can go Thursday, November 6th at 6 p.m. in the main gym. You could hear the marching band postseason concert, but if everything goes as it should, the football team will still be playing after November 6th. So hopefully we'll still be out on the field, but you could hear the band in the warmth and the dryness of our main gym and hear the great work that they're doing. And then finally, Mr. Jenkins and the team at the high school have done a wonderful, amazing job of just bringing back a strong and vibrant theater program. So their fall play is The Crucible. It's Friday the 14th and Saturday the 15th, and there's 7 p.m. performances on both of those nights. So if you haven't been to one of their shows recently, or if you have, check it out, because our students are just so talented, and it's a great event to see. And I know when I talked to Jeremy, he said this is a stretch play for them. And so he's excited to see the students step up for this one. And that concludes my timely information.
We're going to move on to board policies. We have A whole bunch of policies that are on first reading tonight. You can see the list there. Have already gone through the policy committee that Haley and I sat in on. If you have any questions before we get to the third reading and adoption, please let us know. We can try to address those. Item 2 is the third reading, where the first and second readings are waived. Be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education approves the listed policy. This refers to policy 2431, interscholastic athletics. This requires separate action. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Anyone have any discussion for this item?
So I'll start. I'm uncomfortable with the policy. I know the policy was made possible by a portion of the biennium budget that came out. And it, like a number of changes in the biennium budget, it just shows up. And to me, it's a little bit odd that it is in the biennium budget. But it changes Ohio Revised Code, and it allows school districts that have a hockey team to allow students that are not in the school district but are within 20 miles, but their home district doesn't have a hockey team. If the superintendents agree, those students can play in the other city. And it just seemed very odd to me. And I'm not comfortable just rushing into it. I think it opens up a can of worms for other issues. So I would suggest we pause on third reading and give it more time. I did go down the rabbit hole. This was not in the House's first version. It was not in the Senate's first version. It showed up in the second Senate. It showed up in the one of the Senate's versions. And then it was remained in the House and the committee version, but it was not in the original version. If this was considered as separate legislation, we would know the history. We would know why it's being considered. We would know which senator has this particular situation and why. But again, and I understand there are students who want to do this, but I'm uncomfortable with it. I think it carves out something just for hockey, so I want to consider it more.
Dr. Rabbit, can you give us a quick overview of what you shared with us at the meeting and the feedback that you've already gotten from other parties?
Sure. So as Mr. Micco shared all the details of it and kind of where it came from. And it was this random ad that came into the budget bill. But once it came into the budget bill, Jason Kepler started talking about it and doing some research with it as to what other districts are doing and what our families in Strongsville would think of this. So he surveyed and talked to first of all, he talked with our hockey coach, and our hockey coach was supportive of it. He talked with the families of our current high school hockey team and the families of our high school team, as well as our youth program, who we spoke to random parents, a sampling of parents, were all supportive of the change. And so as he took a look at that, then we have an athletic council that we talk about, or we meet and talk about athletic issues. So Jason came to us and said, hey, Troy, our hockey coach, is supportive. Our high school parents are supportive of it. Our youth parents are supportive of it. He talked to the other GCC schools, and I don't believe any GCs. Let me phrase it this way: all GCC schools, other GCC schools, are approving this as well. So those are all the other schools in our league. There's a few outside of I asked him to kind of look around us and see who else, and I think there's a couple that are not. But outside of our league. I've also asked Jason to take a look at the exposure. Let's apply what are other sports that we have that other districts may not have in this area, and does this provide exposure? He's still concluding that research, so that's not finalized as of yet. But if you take a look at a lot of the sports that we have, there would be a few, but there's not many that are there. So based on all of that, he recommended that we go forward with it. We talked as a team, and our team recommended, brought it to the committee and said, hey, based on all of the feedback and the support that we have, that we would recommend going forward with it, and then the policy committee did as well. As of right now, I know of one student in another school district that wants to come play hockey at Strongsville. I don't know of any others. And that was communicated through the superintendent of that student reaching out to me to ask what we were doing because that family had reached out to her.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Just a couple of questions relative to legislative authority. That might not be the right term here, but is there not a policy from the OHSAA on this issue or the Greater Cleveland Conference that would provide more equity for all the schools involved?
The law supersedes that.
Okay. And there's no law on the books?
The law is what was just passed to say
So that-
districts have the option to do
Gotcha.
this.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, thank you for the clarity.
George, if we wanted to move it to like a second reading, do we vote no here and then do it again next time, or is there another
You could
way?
Someone can make a motion to table it,
Okay,
and then we can vote on,
the tabling it instead.
yeah, it would be, someone would have to, make the motion, someone would have to second it, and then we would vote to motion it.
When does that season officially start?
It's a fall sport, so.
Probably
No, it's winter.
winter.
So they're starting to
sorry,
practice
winter.
now.
Yeah, they're practicing.
Is it a problem for the student who wants to possibly come here?
The student would play club hockey.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know this specific student's situation. I would just say typically if you don't have a school hockey program, you play on a club team.
And Kevin, you said that other schools are in the GCC are allowing this to take place.
Correct, yes.
are there any schools that aren't?
I talked to Jason on Monday. I don't believe there are any GCC schools not allowing it. There's some schools in this, like he did that 20-mile radius part of it, and he said there's some schools in that radius that are saying no that he said, but all GCCs are saying yes.
Do all of our GCC schools even have hockey
Oh,
teams?
now you're asking.
I'm gonna go with no, but
I
I'm
wouldn't
not
think
100%
so.
sure. I hear a lot of questions still.
Yeah, just one other process
Yeah.
point. Once you say yes to one student, do you have to say yes to all students who want access?
What it says is the superintendent enters into an agreement with the superintendent of the district where the student is enrolled, approving the student's participation. So it's a student by student, but you would apply the same criteria to all. Now, what Jason has started to develop a draft just in case, but what would be the criteria here for Strongsville, you know? So for example, and I haven't seen all of his criteria, but a criteria would be no Strongsville resident would be cut in a cut sport for somebody that's a non-Strongsville student. I think the biggest, as you take a look at, there's a couple issues, right? It's philosophically, do we want somebody that doesn't live in our community having access and getting the benefits of our sport that our tax dollars are paying for, right? And the second part of it is playing time. Are we okay, or would families be okay saying, hey, how many people are on the hockey, 9, 10? Yeah.
No,
on the ice at one time.
ice.
8? Okay. So, is it put the best 8 guys or girls out there, or is it, I want to make sure my Strongsville student has adequate playing time. So those are kind of the things that we've talked about, our natural challenges, but, those are some guidelines that could be developed should the board give the green light for this.
So Michelle, to answer your question about procedure-wise, so I was thinking more of what Dr. I was talking. If we table it, if we vote to table it, and the vote would be because we already have a motion on the floor. If there was no motion on the floor, so someone would need to make a motion to table it. And then at a future meeting, we could either, since there's no first reading for it yet, because this motion was to waive the first, we would need to start
With the first reading.
with a first reading. If we want to go through that process or untable it with the the third reading, waiving the first and second, so.
Okay.
Is there,
I just have one more question. So, Dr. Rabbit, between Jason and the athletic council or committee, they were recommending to move forward, correct?
Correct.
What are we going to learn or know between now and then, if we were to table this, that supersedes their understanding and because they have to implement this, right? And they have to manage it themselves. So
Right.
any headaches are going to come to them. I just would love to understand what reasoning we would have that it's better understood or more information that they don't have currently, that we would have as a board.
The only thing I can think of is, Dr. Eber, you shared that Jason was doing some additional research that's not all the way back yet.
Correct, yeah, I mean, it's what is our exposure beyond hockey? I think one of the things that I failed to mention is, and Eric, I'm gonna just lean on you a little bit, but I believe what was shared too is this would help build a JV program.
Yeah, we have competitive pressure from a lot of different club teams, and so to sustain a healthy hockey team, I think just statewide and make sure that our public school kids have hockey available. That's why this was in the legislation. We've had two teams before, and the hockey director said that he's not opposed to having two teams in the future. It doesn't impact us today at all. There's only one student who would be impacted by this. The window for club for that student's closed, so if there is a delay, that kid will likely be displaced for the season. He's someone who did skate all during the youth program with the Strongsville kids. So a lot of these kids know each other. They share the ice. They just happen to live in adjacent communities from where we are.
Thank you.
Yep.
to answer your question, the purpose of three readings is to allow the public, to allow all of us to consider it. And so when time is of the essence, you can choose to waive them. Again, I have reservations for it, primarily the taxpayer question. And so one way to deal with that is to put it on first reading. I was going to ask George, procedurally, we could vote, and assuming the vote fails, someone could make a motion to place it on first reading tonight.
I think so.
The other challenge I see potentially about voting now is that we have an even number.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we're missing a member.
Yeah.
How long can we wait before the student in question won't be eligible to play on our team if need be? If we table it today, they won't be able to?
No, I mean, if you table it, it's just missing practice as of right now.
Okay.
Do we know when the first competition is?
I'm not offhand.
First week of November?
So basically, we need to do it by next week.
Yeah, there's an exhibition game this Saturday. The first game of the season starts in November, and there's an exhibition game at the Cavs Arena this weekend.
All right, so I think we're going to have to vote on it and then go from there depending on what the outcome is.
We can't just table it.
We can table it, but someone has to make a motion if you want to do that.
But if we table it, if that exhibition game happens and it's past the first week of November, can that student still come in, even if the season has already started, or is it past that?
We can make up the rules after this, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the reality of it.
Right.
Is someone making a motion, or am I calling George to take the vote?
So even if I have a question, so we could even vote, no matter what we vote now, we can still make the rules afterwards. We could always rescind on it if we
We
wanted.
could,
So
yes.
we could go forward, and if we learn more information,
I think that would be more painful to the student, having, if they already started the season, to then rescind it.
could they be grandfathered in?
Well, I suppose we could do anything, but I don't know if that's in the best interest of anyone.
Because I feel like it's kind of like what Eric said, if it allows the opportunity for a JV program as well, that then in turn allows more kids the opportunity to play that otherwise may not have the opportunity to within Strongsville. It creates all those open spots.
I think that's down the road, though. I don't think there's any JV teams starting this year. So that's not in the works yet. Kevin, did you want to say something?
I'd like to table the conversation, so I'll make a motion that we table the conversation until we have a full group to have the conversation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right,
George?
I gotta make it in here.
So long as that one student won't get locked out.
What could happen is you start to form your team and your roster, and the young person thinks they're on the team or
Right.
the roster, and here comes
Right,
someone else from outside the district, and now you have a real problem.
right,
So that's why I wanted to push this now.
yeah.
So you're either way, it's gonna be disruptive, but if I'm the young person who gets pushed out because so-and-so came from
Yeah.
Medina, I have a real problem with that.
That's
point.
where I'm struggling,
Yeah.
too.
But I thought we said that, so does it count, how we said ice time, that they wouldn't lose ice time to the student, is the same thing with?
That's not
rosters?
that's not the same.
I'm suggesting a scenario, this person comes in and they're going to take a roster spot,
Gotcha.
like on varsity,
Gotcha.
or they're a star, right? And they haven't been practicing with the team. That's, I think we end up with a real problem in that scenario.
And so I would suggest the way forward is this is a policy question. Policy doesn't need to be time is of the essence. And yes, that could mean an undesirable outcome for someone, but I think based on all of the conversation back and forth, taking our time to get it right the first time is a wise path forward.
I don't disagree. I guess my directive would be for Dr. Rybo to have the conversation with Jason so that he's managing the expectations through the coach for the rest of the team and the parents, that this is under consideration and this may happen and someone may be unhappy.
Yeah, I can do that.
You ready to take the roll?
Yeah, and is this okay if we modify the motion? So currently what I have is be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education tables the motion of the third reading, first and second readings waived. Do we want to add, furthermore, the Strongsville Board of Education considers this the first reading?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so which part are we voting on right now?
To table
To
this.
The
table.
tabling, okay,
To table it and to make it the first reading.
okay,
So it ends up in line with the rest of the policies.
gotcha, okay.
Oh, it's all in one motion.
Mhm.
So I have, be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education tables the motion of the third reading, first and second reading waives. Be it further resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education considers this reading the first reading.
Yes.
And the motion was by,
Haley, seconded by Kevin.
Okay, I'm ready to.
All right, thank you, George. You take the roll.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bissell?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you for walking us through that. Next item is Board of Education, other miscellaneous. Does anyone have anything to add today? I just want to share really quickly, you brought it up before, the House of Sport opens. It's actually already opened, and I was there right before I came here for a little event where they had community members, and I was gifted that opportunity, and it was fantastic. My son got to climb the rock wall. He was so excited. But just a reminder that the mall is an important tax base for us, so I think this is a great opportunity for the community to rebuild on the mall, and if you have a chance to go out and visit it and support them, that would be a great thing. Meeting notification, a regular Board of Education meeting, work session will be held Thursday, November 6, 2025 at 7 p.m. right here. And then a regular Board of Education meeting will be held Thursday, November 20th, 2025, 7 p.m. right here. We do have need for executive sessions to
Prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against the student.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Any comments or discussion? George, will you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes. Motion carries. We will enter into executive session at approximately 8:50 p.m. We don't anticipating having future action in the meeting after executive session, so wishing you all a good evening and enjoy the fall weather.
Oh,